I'm going to talk today specifically about the single biggest mistake I have ever made running a business, the last 12 years running a business online, and hopefully this can help some of you potentially from making the same mistake that I did. So this is probably a little more candid of a look behind the scenes. This is me talking about some of the big difficulties that come along with running a major online business and all that. I do pretty well for myself. I'm certainly not super rich. I'm certainly not super poor, etc. So what you are looking at right now is a graph of my website traffic for the past 10 years. It does actually go back further than that, but the way that Squarespace Analytics works, they only let you show about the last 10 years. So this is about through 2014. And of course, there is some data further back, but the numbers would have been even smaller, probably not very interesting, very worth paying attention to. But you get a sense here of basically how many people visit my website, formerly gains.af, now gains-af.com. And so initially, when I first started doing this full-time, it was around 2015. So for context, around 2012 is when I started the site. At the time, I was still mostly working as a personal trainer in person in gyms. And so this was not like a major source of work, revenue, etc. And I was doing a little bit of online coaching at the time. I was doing a little bit of online coaching on the side. I had maybe 5-10 clients here or there. It was enough money that I couldn't turn it down, but it was not enough money to live off of, so I was still relying mostly on day jobs. Now that changed around 2015. Around 2015, I decided to take the leap and work for myself solely, 100% full-time for the first time. And I focused a lot on doing a lot more work at that time. I really hit the ground running in terms of understanding, okay, what stuff do I need to do to actually build my blog? Started making a lot more content. I was making content consistently, basically 2 posts a week for a long time, sometimes 3 posts a week. And as you can see, that's still not getting a ton of visits on the website. I was getting maybe 500 visits, 1,000 visits a month, something like that around that time. But things did start to grow slowly and steadily, started to get a little bit more visits here and there as things slowly started to pick up. And then in 2018, I made the decision that basically I was going to get a job in the game industry, starting off as a junior game designer. And so I really did not focus very much on the site from that point onwards, but I did still see a lot of traffic start to come in for the next few years. And so what was the cause of that? I was not really building the website at all, right? Well, a part of it was just that my SEO started to do really well. If you look at my top visits here, you'll see that a lot of my traffic over the past 10 years has come from Google, lesser amounts from Facebook, direct, Twitter, etc. And what I would say is that in the very beginning, obviously I did not know very much about SEO, did not know very much about Facebook ads or anything like that. And Facebook is very much a platform where you have to pay for ads to get traffic. And so most of what I was doing was I would make some blog posts. I would, post them on Twitter, on Facebook. I wouldn't even really blast it out to my email list because I didn't even really have a very good email list at the time. And so most of what I would say my real organic presence came from was just people on Twitter. That was really the platform that, really seemed to resonate the most with me and where I sort of made the most connections with people and got the most shares and so on. But as you can see, that ultimately was a very small part of the equation because really what happened was that after a while, enough people were reading my stuff, enough people were sharing my stuff, enough people were searching for my stuff that it started to really start getting indexed and started actually ranking decently well. And as a result, I started getting a lot of people consistently coming into the site from Google, and that really dwarfed everything else. And so that's why, starting in around 2018, I started to have my traffic just increase steadily for a few years. Now, what happened, obviously, is that in 2020, there were a lot more people staying at home, reading stuff on their phones, reading stuff on their computers, etc. So I fully did not expect, this bump that started happening in 2020, around here or so, was really going to last for very long. And I was correct, right? Basically what happened is that from about 2018 to about 2020, things just continually increased. And then it peaked late 2020, early 2021, and then basically started to go steadily downhill after that. And again, I kind of expected that. That's just the way that it is. That's just, okay, there was a pandemic on. A lot more people were, looking at their phones, looking at their computers, etc. So since then, things have been steadily decreasing. But my general thought was, it'll decrease for a while, but it's probably going to normalize somewhere around things the way they were around 2018, 2019, where I was getting, say 5,000 visits a month, maybe 10,000 visits a month, something in this range. Not nearly as high as the inflated, 15,000 visits a month that I was getting in the end of the pandemic, or in the middle of the pandemic, really. So that's what I expected to happen, and that is pretty much what happened. So basically, after a while, my visits started going down. We start to get to about, 5, 6, 7,000 visits a month pretty consistently. And so again, I was in the video game industry for about 5 years, from about 2018 until the end of 2023 primarily. And then at the end of 2023 is when I decided, okay, I'm going to start really focusing on, working on this full-time again and really developing this. And of course, I'm not just working on the blog at this point, I'm also working on the YouTube page, which I've been, trying to get off the ground for a little while. So, I've been diversifying out a little bit in terms of my efforts, in terms of my focus. But probably the single biggest mistake that I ever made is now going to reveal itself, because while this graph looks really good, if we look at it in this view, I'd like to talk about something that specifically happened in the past month. Specifically, this happened around February 24th and 25th of this year. On that day, I was surprised to discover that my traffic, all sources, went to 0. Didn't know why. And I then looked into it, and for some reason, my website wasn't working. So I went, checked Squarespace, tried to see, okay, is there something wrong with my website in Squarespace? No, totally fine. But for some reason, they can't connect to the domain. So I think, okay, it must be an issue with my domain hosting. Go to my domain hosting. See, hey, is there something wrong with my domain? And they're basically saying, well, we don't see anything wrong with your domain. But it's not working. For some reason, Squarespace cannot connect to my domain. So I contact my domain hosting service. I say, hey, what's going on? And the person responds, okay, sit tight for a second. I'm going to figure out what's going on. And then I wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You periodically keep saying, okay, going to figure out what's going on. After about a half an hour of this, I finally get another message which says, listen, I haven't figured it out, but I've called in someone more senior to take a look at it. We're going to figure this out. We're going to shoot you an email about this. We're going to get this sorted ASAP. And, spoiler alert, they never figured it out. I don't know what happened. They sent me an email the next day to say they still hadn't figured it out. I've tried to be in touch with them since then. Still nothing. I have no idea why, after using this exact domain for, again, at this point, about 12 years, suddenly it just decided to stop working, and they don't know why. And that was probably one of the most anger-inducing experiences of my life. I discovered this at about 9 p.m. my time. I sat down, I said, obviously I cannot let my website continue to be offline for so long. So I immediately bought a new domain, which is gains-af.com. Again, previously I was using gains.af. Now, I suspect that the reason why they had an issue with this domain is pretty simple. It is an Afghanistani email domain. I bought this domain specifically because it was a nice little pun on my name, Adam Fisher, and also the phrase .af or as fuck. I thought this was pretty funny, right? Okay, Gains AF. This makes sense to me. This is a nice little cute pun, etc. So I bought this domain, again, 12 years ago. I was paying extra for it because this is not, Afghanistan domains are not, carried by the same major domain sellers, hosts. as everything else. I couldn't get it through Squarespace, couldn't get it through other places. And so I had to get it through this one service. I'm not going to name them. They're already not getting my business, fine, whatever. But I got it through this service because it was the only way to get it. And I paid extra for it. I paid basically somewhere close to like $200 a year in terms of paying for this domain name, in terms of paying for hosting through their website. And I paid that extra because I was like, this is a cute little name, it's a nice pun, etc. Built my brand on it. And what ended up happening is that, again, it just stopped working after a long time. I assume some issue with them actually having the domain. They couldn't actually license it to me, whatever. Very frustrating that it happened that way. Very frustrating that I get zero closure on what actually happened. But basically, overnight, I said, I can't let this, I just can't let my website be offline. I've got so many things that rely on my website. I have a whole coaching business. This is my livelihood. And also at the time, I was running Facebook ads. So I was running Facebook ads that were getting zero results. I was just wasting money because nobody had told me. I'd been given zero indication that my website was down. I just had to find this out myself. So it's like 10 at night at this point. I basically spent that time that night, remaining time until like 1 a.m. I bought a new domain through Squarespace, which is much simpler. I bought new email hosting as well through Google. Again, much simpler, much easier to use, and significantly cheaper. I'm paying something like $60 a year as opposed to $200 a year that I was paying previously. What my expectation was, obviously, is that this would be a big issue because it's not like I was redirecting a site to an existing site. It's not like I still had access to the gains.af domain. And so I fully expected, okay, this is going to cause some serious problems with my SEO because basically I'm just swapping it for a different domain and hoping that Google eventually catches on that all the quality articles that I've made, all the quality posts that I've made are what they are, right? And will eventually get to rank back up in the search engine. But I was not really prepared for how much of an issue it actually is. So if you look back this past month, you'll see that I have had 4.3 thousand website visitors this month. This is down about 47% month over month. So I had, basically half of my traffic disappear overnight. If you also look at my top sources by visit, you'll see here that none of those are from Google. Google has indexed my website. My website, can show up if you search for it. But it ranks so poorly that I am getting 0 clicks from Google. I'm getting 0 clicks, where again, this used to be my single biggest, contributor to my visits by far. It was something like 50 to 60% of my website traffic. I have looked up, similar situations with other people online to see, okay, what happens in this kind of situation? How long does it take to recover? How long does it take before you start ranking again? And the answers that I saw ranged from, like a year and a half to 2 years to potentially never gets quite back to where it was. And that's really tough as somebody who runs a small business who's really highly dependent on reaching as many people as possible. Right now, my traffic is almost entirely dependent on running ads on Facebook. And that sucks. Like, that is pretty awful. That means that basically all of my traffic is not necessarily inflated, but it is all paid traffic. It is all people who are not finding this website on their own. They are just visiting because I am running ads to try and get people onto my mailing list. And of course, then, once I get them on my mailing list, I can get them to, read some of the website pages later on. But the reality is that basically right now, nobody is reading my content. Nobody's actually reading my content because nobody is finding my content organically. They are only finding the specific landing pages that I send them to. They're not really doing much beyond that because, again, this is paid advertising, and that is what it is. So this is easily the single biggest mistake I have ever made. This is going to be a very big, very costly thing to recover from. It's going to take quite some time. And in the meantime, I am really going to struggle with finding new clients. It's also a pretty awful time for it. Obviously, for a while, I was highly dependent on the fact that I was also working in the games industry, so I had another day job in addition to the income that I was bringing in from this website and from my coaching business, and that was obviously helping out a lot. Now I don't have that luxury. I'm focusing on this full time, and so I need to be able to scale up my client business in order to actually be able to make this sustainable. But at the same time, I can't do that as much if, again, I don't have people finding the site. I don't have people who are organically engaging with my content and that I'm able to actually develop a relationship with as a result. Ultimately, the reality is that yes, you can run ads, you can get clicks, you can get views, but those don't mean very much unless those people start to actually engage with content that you put in front of their faces. And if they don't start to actually develop a relationship with you over time. I had an incredible amount of just, personal relationships that were developed as a result of the fact that people would be able to find all kinds of content across my site, all kinds of different things that I wrote about across, again, 10 years of writing. And, now a lot of that is just gone. A lot of that is just out the door. The website still obviously functions. I still obviously am able to find clients. I still have a lot of relationships that I have developed outside of the site, but it's a pretty significant setback for me personally. I'll also add that, in particular, the downfall of Twitter has been a pretty big issue as well. I would say that Twitter was really the social media site that I most jived with, that I had the most presence on, that I had the most connections on. And a lot of people have left Twitter since Elon Musk bought it and started, really tanking the website. And as a result, there are a lot of people that I, used to be, friends with that are now spread across multiple other social media websites. My time, my effort is now split up many more ways as well because I can't just post something on, one or two sites. I've got to post it on like 6 or 7 sites to try and actually get the message across. And even then, doesn't get much traction, doesn't get much shares because that's just the reality of the modern environment. So it's a pretty tough situation out there for me. This is probably the worst possible time this really could have happened. It's going to take me quite a while to recover from this. So, little pitch. So, of course, if you are interested in online fitness coaching, now is the absolute best time to reach out. I will put a link down in the description of this video here. Reach out, refer your friends, etc. I have over 12 years of experience working with clients of all kinds, ranging from people who are disabled to professional athletes, working with people who are looking to gain weight, looking to lose weight, looking to build muscle, looking to build strength. I work really well with clients of all kinds of goals, all kinds of varieties. Obviously, this is not meant to be, super doom and gloom. This is not to say, I'm gonna quit this. Obviously, it's still a very profitable thing for me. It's not like this is the straw that broke the camel's back, but it is a significant setback. It is a significant difficulty. And I do need to be able to scale my business further in the coming months if I am going to be able to continue to do this full time. So this is just a little peek behind the curtain, a little bit of a sharing of the ups and the downs, the difficulties that are involved with, again, running your own online business. What would I say I would do differently in the future? Honestly, I probably wouldn't have bought a gimmicky domain name. I probably would have gone with something a lot simpler. I probably would have bought a Squarespace domain way back in the day instead of waiting so long to do it now. I probably would have picked something that was, maybe a little bit less silly. I don't know. Point is, definitely don't try to migrate your domains after you've built up, 10 years of SEO. Don't have your domain provider just stab you in the back randomly for no reason, etc. Anyway, that is all for today's video. As always, don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. I will talk to you all next week. Have a good one.